G'day guys, Springwood here and welcome back to Marble Mountain. In today's episode, we're going to be finishing off the fishing industry that I started in the last episode of Marble Mountain. I had a lot of fun putting this together, but it was probably like too big of a build to put into one full episode. So I've split it up and now we're going to be finishing off this whole area with a bit of detail work, some seafood restaurants and a big old fish market that I think turns out pretty damn good. If you're new here, then welcome to my channel. This is the city of Montana as part of the Marble Mountain region. There's actually a whole bunch of new people watching my channel at the moment, so welcome to all the new people. If you haven't subscribed yet, then maybe, definitely consider subscribing. I was looking at my analytics the other day and more than half the people who watch my videos are unsubscribed, so that's kind of surprising. So if you are new here and you have only recently subscribed, then let me know in the comments section below. Always love to know if new people are checking out the channel. And for those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, then some of you guys will actually, well maybe, I don't know, this is a bit of a long shot, but I have actually built a fish market way back. My very first episode I ever released on YouTube was in fact me building a fish market. Now don't go and watch it because it's pretty cringy to be honest. Like all nervous and don't know how to record commentary, and the quality is pretty bad, but I guess I still like that video. It's still a fun video, and if you have been watching since that, then let me know in the comment section. That'd be pretty interesting. I don't think anybody has stuck around for that long. Maybe some people. If you have, then let me know in the comments. That'd be pretty interesting to find out. Anyway, today's episode, we are going to be finishing off this fish market. It's going to be mostly time-lapse, and then around the 18-minute mark, I'm going to be doing a live play and going through all the ins and outs of the details, just in case the time-lapse is a little bit too fast, but I'll be explaining all the different techniques and stuff that I end up doing to create this place. So this is all part of the Sunset Harbor DLC. I pretty much, like in the last episode, just placed down the buildings to figure out where I wanted most of the buildings to go, just to get a bit of a sense. The wharf ends up becoming like a pretty chaotic, pretty big area, I must say. I don't know how realistic it is. When I was building it, I was basing it off a fishing harbor in San Francisco, but I didn't end up really taking the general structure from it. I just was taking inspiration, getting ideas, and what I could gather from these places is that they're generally not just like one big wharf. It's usually like lots of little wharves that come off, this sort of land area. What a great use of words there. So I wanted it to be a little bit like strung together, a little bit all over the place. So it's not exactly like this very, here's the wharf, here's where the boats are, and that's it. So you'll see a lot of piers coming off. You'll see a lot of industry just sort of in random locations, as if it's sort of been additions to the wharf. So the wharf was once constructed and then they've just added extra bits and pieces to it. And I think I generally get that feel pretty well. But let me know in the comment section. And maybe this looks like a wharf that you're familiar with, because I looked at a couple of different wharves around the world, particularly one in Sydney, which is where I'm from. There is a fish market there that I've been to quite a few times, and that was probably the fish market that was sitting in the back of my head when I created this, more so than the one in San Fran. Shout out if you guys know that one as well, because it's a cool place. You go inside and there's all these fish vendors, and then there's also a whole bunch of seafood restaurants, which is sort of like half the reason why you go there, isn't it? To actually go to a seafood restaurant. But I decided to make mine all outside, and along its own little like pedestrian strip. So I ended up creating that using some decals, and then I used this concrete network, which I use for pretty much everything, and just created like a little bit of a border for it. And it kind of turned out pretty nice, I must say. Ended up dragging some of these growables, these buildings just next to them. These are just commercial shops, and I thought that they would sort of act as some seafood restaurants. So this whole like strip is just sort of dedicated for that. And I'd imagine that like most people would go to the fish market and they might buy some fish, and then they'd probably go to the seafood restaurant and then have something to eat. I know that's sort of the case when you go to the fish market in Sydney. You tend to buy your fish, or you might go to a seafood restaurant and then go to the fish market. Actually, this one that I went into in Santiago in Chile, it was you actually ordered, you went to the fish market, you purchased what you want, like the raw fish, and then you took it to the restaurant and then they cooked it up there, which is pretty cool. But I don't think they do that in Sydney. I think maybe they do. I don't know. I can't really remember. It's been a while since I've been there. But I do like the way that this strip turned out. It ends up being quite functional. I end up dragging a pedestrian path down the center of it so that people can actually access it and use it, and you will see people using it in the live play at the end. And now I'm just sort of like detailing it up with some just general props. These are just some tables and chairs, and I just put some umbrellas over some of the tables and chairs because well, to be honest, I just wanted you guys to be able to see that there was tables underneath there. And also, I sort of think that some tables would have some umbrellas and some probably not. They wouldn't probably actually have them. And I like that touch. I thought it was quite nice. And I also decided to use different types of tables and chairs and sort of like benches in different restaurants to sort of show that they're a little bit different. But you can sort of see a little bit of similar architecture with some of the buildings, and then the other side of the pedestrian path there's slightly different types of buildings. So it's got like a bit of a I want to go with a general theme of architecture, as if this was created at the same time, built at the same time. I also sort of imagined that the seafood restaurants were probably a more recent addition, maybe like in the 70s or something. Was prior to that, I would have thought that this whole wharf would have been just dedicated to industry, and they've probably like converted this into a bit more of a touristic destination, an area where people can shop and have food at a restaurant, which is what you have at a restaurant. And yeah, so I sort of wanted it to look like it was built all at the same time, and it's really wedged in between a lot of other industries. So you can actually see a bit of industry just on the outskirts of this. So you're really like limited to this one pedestrian path. And I also wanted there to be a bit of an access for people to also get like a kind of like a sneaky entrance into the fish market. So you will see me build the general entrance for the fish market, but then there's also like a second entrance to the actual seafood restaurants too. Now we're working at a different location. So as part of this whole build that I've been doing over the last week, I also created a couple of other wharves that were for general generic industry around here. And I also incorporated the ferry terminal, which I'm really quite happy with how that blends in with the rest of the area. And unfortunately though, people don't really use it. So like maybe when we start building on the other side of Montana, we get a bit more, demand for, I guess, transportation. Then maybe people will use it, but I was sort of hoping that, including all this, build around this area, then people would actually end up using that side, using the ferries, but no one's using it. So I don't know, maybe I'm doing something wrong, but at this stage, that ferry terminal is doing bugger all, and that's a bit of a shame. Now I'm starting to work on the fish market, and my general idea going behind this fish market is that I wanted one section of the market to be where you purchase the fish. So, most people, I guess, will be coming in, buying some sort of seafood and then bailing. And then there would be some other types of people who are just coming to the fish market to, go to a restaurant or, buy fresh food, buy fresh fish and then, potentially take it to one of these markets, and these markets would then cook it up for you. So sort of taking that idea that, you buy the raw fish and then you take it to, one of these stalls and they cook it up. And look, I don't know, and you guys can kind of come up with this because I was just sort of building and then I was thinking, building and thinking at the same time, would you believe it or not? But I sort of imagine that this whole setup is very temporary, so this is maybe something that pops up on Saturdays, maybe on weekends it's something that happens, or maybe it's like a festival that's going on, so there's like a lot more tables and stalls sort of popped up at the moment. I would imagine that the fish market would be operating like not 24/7, but 7 days a week, and then the whole stalls and stuff would probably only be, you know, actually popping up on the weekends. But I'm not really sure, like that's just sort of my interpretation of what I was building. That could be quite unrealistic, I might be bang on the money, I'm not really sure. But I do like this setup, is it sort of shows that there's like two different sides of the fish market. There's people who are just there to eat at a restaurant, and then there's people who are actually purchasing and taking it home. And then I guess there's this other side where there's this whole industry side. So there's, you know, quite a lot of imports of fish that's kind of coming in from all the fishing liners that are going out and actually grabbing all the seafood and then bringing it in. And then I guess there'd be a fair amount of exporting, but that'd probably be more for the fish factory, which I ended up squeezing in. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's over there on the right hand corner. I don't really do too much detail on the fish factory, but it's there, and it's a pretty nice looking building, to be honest. So I didn't really need to detail it up too much, whereas I felt like the fish market needed a little bit of detail work. It was lacking a bit of atmosphere. And I also placed down a bunch of the boom, I think they're called like boom people generators or something like that. And they're basically parks that encourage people to just flock there, and nothing's really like, it's just a park. But it just brings places to life a little bit more. But unfortunately, I wasn't really getting that many people like popping up there. So maybe I need to improve my public transport around here, but I've got like the ferry terminal, so I don't really know what's going on. And there's also a bus that's just driving around doing laps and not really picking anybody up around here. So I need to sort of improve my public transport, I think, a little bit. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, or at least having this trouble, but my AVO, what's the unabbreviated name of it? Advanced Vehicle Options. Yeah, that's it. That's playing up for me. It's not, since the new update, it's still kind of spawning vehicles that I don't want. So I don't know, I might need to go through and fix up those menus, because I do actually have, I've subscribed to much nicer looking buses, but still getting those bright greens and yellows and reds still driving around my city, so I probably need to go around and fix it up. So I've just been working on probably my favorite area of this whole build, and that is the actual fish industry side of the wharf. And I really like this area. This whole stretch has got this really cool looking warehouse that I created just by basically placing the same growable down and just changing the colors using the color changer paint it mod. That's it. And I don't know, I really like that stretch of warehouses. I think they look really nice. And then I just decided to detail it up by placing down a whole bunch of boxes, which I sort of feel like really adds a lot to this whole fish industry scene. So that was like a really easy, placement of one thing and then creating a lot of realism. And I just wanted to make this very busy, frantic industrial area, because I sort of feel like there would be a lot going on around here, because fish is sort of like this cold, fresh meat that you need to sort of like get moving pretty quickly, especially if you're trying to get it to the fish market for that day, or if taken to the fish factory, it's being exported and going somewhere else in the city. So I just wanted to make it look like there's a lot going on, and I think placing down a whole bunch of boxes and vehicles and there's a shame that not many people were spawning around here, because it would have been pretty cool to see a lot of people just sort of like hanging around and actually working. Although I can probably get some spawners. I think there's some work spawners that I can probably pick up, which I think I might grab for certain other areas. And again, taking ideas from San Fran, there's this great fish industry around here, this fishing wharf, and I was just going down a street view and pretty much just like checking out what was going on and trying to recreate it in my own way. And yeah, I love the atmosphere of these wharves. I always have such fond memories of going to the one in Sydney and even the ones in other countries. It seems to be like one of the things you do when you go to another country is check out their sort of like harbors. And there's always like some sort of great seafood restaurants around these sort of places. So let me know what you have experience in your city as well, because I'm always sort of fascinated to find out what is like sort of going on in other people's countries and experiences as well. A lot of you guys leave some really cool comments about, you know, what it's like living in San Fran and actually going to these places, because I can only really imagine. And yeah, I believe it or not, I do really enjoy reading those comments. So hit me up in the comments section. I'd be interested to find out a little bit more about fish industry in your place, because I feel like it'd be quite similar globally, but at the same time, it's probably different all over. Like I said, kept it pretty basic for the fish factory. I thought it had enough detail, and I didn't want to just detail everything, so just left it as it was, just placing down some ploppable asphalt. And I think what that does is it shows that there's different types of buildings within this one wharf. You know, I think if I was just to leave it all the same concrete, same color, it would have just given the impression that it was all built at the same time. Everything is pretty much exactly the same date and nothing has been changed. Whereas I feel like when you put down a little bit of different color of ground textures, shows that, you know, areas have been replaced, some areas are being built at one particular time. And I think it just adds to the atmosphere quite a lot. So that's like a really, really simple thing to just place down and create like a different type of timeline, I guess. Now, oh man, I really love this little park that I created. It's pretty simple. Like, it's only just like one little pathway and a couple of different park wharves. I should say piers, not wharves. But I love it. I think it's really cool. Kept it pretty under detailed, just a couple of park benches, and I ended up creating it into an actual park, so people have to pay money to go there, suckers. But yeah, it's a nice little relaxed area, because and half the reason why I did that is we have a lot of residential around here, and I kind of ruined their view by putting down a fish market, and like their houses are pretty nice. So I figured I probably should place down a little bit of parklands just to increase the land value a little bit. I mean, they are pretty close to the city, and they do have some pretty spectacular views of the Montana Bridge, but I sort of think I need to improve the land value just a little bit more. So that's what we're doing around here. And yeah, like I said, improving the land value, putting down another park. This one is just to sort of break, you know, a bit of a break from the residential and the industry too, because I sort of feel like we needed that. But that is pretty much it for the time lapse. I'm going to get into live play and give you a little bit more of a rundown of all the things that I did in finer detail. Ba-da-dum-ba-bum, and here it is, the finished product. I'm pretty damn happy with how this thing looks. I'm really glad that my old save broke, because yeah, my old version of this was definitely not to this standard. So it was a bit of a blessing. I mean, I definitely didn't feel that way about 10 hours ago, but it is, I think, a much better version of the fish market, which I really wanted to do a pretty good job of. So I am glad that I had another crack at it. Before I give you a bit of a tour of all the ins and outs of it, I just want to show you it compared to the rest of the city, because it's pretty big, which I'm really happy about. It is still smaller than the port, which is, you know, a good thing, because obviously the port has to be much larger. But I think the transition from this industrial area to the rest of the city, I think, is pretty bang on the money. I think that this is, you know, we might need to change a little bit of this, but ultimately I'm pretty happy with how the coastline around here is starting to look. And look at the activity in the water. I mean, there's so much going on. It's really cool. I mean, that is the great thing about this DLC. It just adds so much to, you know, the actual waterways, because we really were lacking before. So this is great. You guys probably saw me place down this ferry line, but yeah, this is like a really great addition to like the rest of the wharves. So if you are building a wharf, I highly suggest putting down a ferry terminal pretty close by. So let's actually start around here. So if you're coming from the city, from the downtown, okay, great view there. We've got the metro line coming around here, and this is like a bit of a touristic walk around this area, which unfortunately nobody's really using, which is a bit of a pain because it's pretty nice. And then we make our way over to this shopping complex, which is just really just a couple of office blocks. We have the ferry terminal and some parking. So low detail. I was not doing too much around here, but we do have some nice Montana signage, which is pretty good. I built this in the last episode, and this was like a pretty easy going little docking area, I guess. Just trying to blend it in with the rest of like this, and I think it works. I would have liked to have the same color concrete, but I also think that it kind of looks pretty. I like that it's a different color because that's quite the case in reality. Something that worked really nicely, and you guys probably can't really tell, which is a good thing, is that I had this this concrete network here, and it just blends in really well. I actually dragged another one across here, and it just, I don't know, I think it just adds a lot, just a little subtle bit of detail. And I think the thing that really makes this area are like just these piles of crates, because so much cargo is coming in and out. So I'm sure this is full of like fishing products and materials and stuff like that. So I was trying to go pretty high on those boxes. And then now we're coming into the actual fish market side of things. This stretch is all about the fish restaurants. So I guess we got, that's probably not one that's like a corner store, but like this is a restaurant, this one is, and this one, and this one, and definitely this one. So, there's a bunch of restaurants that sit around here. Would have liked to extend it across a bit more, but I ended up going with this park, which I'm pretty happy about, which we'll get to in a sec. And then there's like back area of the fish market, which also allows people to get through. So I mean, you can literally go from the fish market and then walk your way into one of these restaurants. And then we've also got this employee only area. Again, lots and lots of crates. And I just really like all these back areas. I think they had so much to the build. Probably should have gotten rid of the vanilla crates, but what are we gonna do? These strict toaster break walls are just the best. I think that he built these in New times, and which was 2-3 years ago, and they still hold very strong. We have this fish. We should actually check out some of the fish industry. We got the salmon fish harbor, and then we also have the tuna. We'll talk about the tuna in a second. So we've got a couple of problems with the tuna, and then we have the fish market. Whoa, was that a bit of a glitch there? That was a bit weird. Did you guys see that? Yeah, something happened. But yeah, here's the fish market. So if you missed the time lapse, let me just give a little quick overview of the fish market. So it serves obviously as a practical place where people are selling fish, I guess, when they are coming in to offload those goods, those fish goods I should say. They'd probably use this access here, and then for when it's a Saturday or Sunday or whenever there's actually a fish market on, which I guess it is right now, that have this whole area that is dedicated to markets. But this wouldn't be the case every day of the week. Most of the time this probably wouldn't be. These are all little pop-up stores, including this one, or maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, event happening or something. Some sort of fish event, I'm sure. Something that I really, really hate about all this, and it's not me, it's this. What the hell? Why is this the size of the fish? That's pretty nuts. That's pretty crazy. So that's a little bit unrealistic. And it would have been really nice if we could have actually had these as props. I've been scrolling through the props and I haven't seen anything like this, so that's a bit of a pain. But whatever. And these buildings, I mean, these are totally functional. People are using them, and that's great. It would be good to see more people around here. I don't really get it. I've got these what do you call them? Crowd generators, but no one's here. So again, that's annoying. I don't know why, but it is. And what else can I show you? Well, let's have a look at this stretch, because this turned out really nice. I've made sure that there's enough of a clearance between all this. But I really love this area. I think this turned out really, really quite cool. We might have to change the speed limit, I think, because people are just flying around. And it's actually looking pretty cool now that people are parking around here too. I didn't place down these guys, or this guy's right in the way there, but that, we'll just ignore that. But I mean, I'm really happy with how this whole wharf turned out. It's very slapped together, and I mean, the whole thing is the whole layout, I'm sure it's very unrealistic, but I think it'll do. I'm sure I've mentioned this in the time lapse, but I really wanted to have these like put inside some of these warehouses, because I think like parked in these sort of areas is a little bit unrealistic, but you know, whatever, it will do. And then we got this little park, which, what the hell is this guy doing? That's definitely not a place where you can park, but you know, we'll just ignore that. And this area over here is just under detailed, but you know, whatever. I think it still serves its purpose. And the park, I mean, so basic, but I really, really like it. It's open space that we definitely needed, and you know, we do have a park over here, but I just think that we needed like a break between, you know, these really nice houses and this fish industry, because this would be pretty noisy, pretty bright as well at night. But I think that this gap sort of like makes it worthwhile living in a place like this. And you know what? I think the view would be pretty decent. I mean, I don't think it is. It is pretty decent. We're going to talk about this in a second. But these guys are sitting on some pretty nice property. So now we've got, like, we can actually totally justify this transition, I think. So two things I want to talk about. First of all, the tuna industry. It's not doing anything. Okay, I've got to admit it's doing nothing. That's because we actually have no tuna areas within the city, unfortunately. I tried to make some. What am I looking for? I tried to make some, but it just didn't. I thought that was some tuna industry for a second there, but it's not, it's pollution. Yeah, I tried to make some deep water areas over here for tuna, but that didn't work. I believe that's what they need, is like some super deep water. Unfortunately, I think just like the like whereabouts the water is, like the height of the water in this map, I don't think it's going to allow me to create any tuna areas. So like that's a bit of a pain. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to keep it there. So it's just, you know, boats are coming out and they're just, it's like, it's terrible. Okay, it's doing a really bad job, but we're just going to ignore that. And then the second thing I want to talk about is this side of the river, because it's really, really starting to bother me. In a good way, because it means we are ready to start working over here. So we're going to start working over in this area over the next couple of weeks-ish, I guess. I say ish because I've actually done a lot of work in a particular area of Marble Mountain that I haven't really shown you guys too much. I'm just gonna like, let me give it like a little peek. It's over there. You can see a little bit of it. Yeah, it's over there. But I've done about like 2 or 3 episodes that I haven't shown you guys. I've been meaning to release them, but I've just been working on other projects, and then the new DLC dropped, so I was like, oh, let's work on this one, and I just keep on pushing it back. But I really want to show you, because there's some decent builds over there that I think you guys are going to really enjoy. So we'll see how long it takes me to get over to this side, but I'm itching to get over there because this is just hideous, and we're ready. We are so ready to get over that side. So that's what I plan to do over in the next few episodes at least. Before I go, I do want to give a special shout out to some of my patrons like Andre Hepp, Oliver Assis, and Mike Wegner. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!